sharks in the pool. That is not cool. I need the tools. Take me to school. Feet first into this league. Me first. That cannot be. Under the underdog, Monica G. Feeling a whole lot better suddenly. I get in with it. Win it again. You're 1 and 2 in the bag, and I'm going for 3. That is the beat down. God of the best, so I keep. Now y'all treading water for weeks. Now I'm the shark, so I eat. Now look, I am not sorry. I understood the pump from which I started, and navigating these drafts is cathartic. So thanks for the invite to party. Yeah, Dynasty Underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now easy as flying a kite. Now come take a look at it right now. Dynasty Underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now easy as flying a kite. Now come take a look at it right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to Dynasty Underdog, episode 145. I'm your host, Uriah Dawkins. I'm back, and with me tonight, Billy Beeman. What's up, dude?
Let's go. You're back. Josh is out. I didn't loop the intro. We got this covered. All right, we're good.
Already batting 1,000 right now.
Yeah. Maybe next week we'll have the whole crew back together. That's the plan, at least.
That will be the plan. Yes. What's happening in news and nonsense? It's not a ton of news. I kind of went through. We had some rookie training camps and maybe not rookie training camps, but like teams are getting together, right? And they're doing stuff. So you have these beat reporters coming up there, and a lot of it's a little bit of nonsense, but it's fun to talk about. So this one is very interesting to me. It said Sean Payton, he expects Javonte to be ready for camp. Mm-hmm. And we've gone back and forth about Javonte Williams. And, my concern has always been as a holder of him, when to move off. Because, I know I'm just holding a time bomb there. With all this stuff, he tore up his everything in his knee, right? Everything. And for him to be back, just historically, that's hard to believe. And yeah, man, are you buying it?
Really killing my Samaje Perine shares. That's the story here. We're burying the lead. I don't know if I fully buy it. I mean, these guys, they expect them to be healthy, but it's like, you expect them, you want them to be ready. Of course, you're trying to get them ready, but we never know. There can be setbacks. This was a really terrible injury. At first, it was he might not be ready for the season in general. It might be midway through the season. So this has kind of been a roller coaster with Javonte Williams and the news and kind of, where he's at with the recovery process. So I don't think I'm really going to believe any of it. And I'm just going to continue to do what I've been doing, and it's just staying away from the whole venture. I don't think you need to buy running, as young as he may be. I don't think you need to buy injured running backs. I think there's plenty of opportunity to kind of churn to the newer class, the incoming guys, some younger, cheaper options.
I think as somebody who has a Javonte share or two, you're just kind of hoping that you do see this kind of happen. You get a couple more, maybe a couple hype videos or whatever, and then probably just smart to move off him. Because I just really have my doubts he's going to produce for you. I don't know, till the better half of the last of the season. So, all right. Coach Rivera, Riverboat Ron, he says he wants more touches for Gibson. Antonio Gibson.
This is a yearly tradition. What are we doing? This is a yearly tradition.
And we,
he's getting the same exact CMC hype he got 2 years ago.
Have planted our flags saying we're not on the Gibson hype train at all. We've stayed away 100%. I've never once had a share.
I've never had a share.
Never had a share. So I'm not buying it. He says he wants more touches for Gibson. They brought in Brian Robinson last year, who got shot, came back, and was just outperforming Gibson. Let's be honest. And then
that whole sentence is ridiculous. He got shot, came back, and was outperforming Gibson. What?
Well, one's a running back, the other's
and then a football player.
Yeah, he's a football player. Good for him. But then they drafted a guy this year too. So
Chris Rodriguez.
They got Eric Bieniemy there, and so honestly, none of these guys are their guys, right? They don't.
Right.
They're not beholden to Antonio Gibson in any type of way. I'm just not buying it again. But.
Yeah, am I buying the hype? Absolutely not. But prior to this hype, he was going. I was in a startup, and I went zero running back, and I got him past the 10th round, like somewhere in the 13th round.
Yeah.
At that point, you're just taking shots on guys anyway, and he has the pass catching upside and injuries, the whole thing. Handcuffs, right? Like he's kind of in that running back by committee handcuff type deal. So he has value from that respect, but I think with the hype, all of a sudden he's kind of been boosted up, and I've been getting offers, people sending me Antonio Gibson, people trying to get him off me low or whatever. So yeah, I'm not buying it. Again, like you said, they drafted a guy who's not going to really, I think, threaten his role on the team necessarily, but Chris Rodriguez is another guy who's probably going to get a touch or two here and there. Just he's a pretty hard runner. He's going to be probably a decent blocker at times. So in general, he's probably going to just carve out some kind of role. And this is the three-headed monster. You don't want any part of that to be a cornerstone of your dynasty team in any way, right?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Here's a good one. I wished, I had been more available. For those who haven't heard my voice on this pod for a while, it's because I was basically dying.
It's not funny, man.
But I'm back now.
Jesus
but I've been wanting to talk about Dalton Kincaid because there's so much hype against this guy, right? So Dalton Kincaid is not. Let's be clear. 2 months ago, nobody cared about Dalton Kincaid. 3 months ago, nobody cared about Dalton Kincaid. And he got drafted. He had really good, combine and all that. And he got drafted highly. He's first tight end off the board. He goes to the Bills. And, everybody loves the Bills. Josh Allen, this high-powered offense and all that stuff. So here's the report. Anyway, he says Dalton Kincaid is reportedly going to be utilized in a similar fashion to the way the Chiefs utilize Travis Kelce. Of course, right? You're gonna mention the best tight end in the game to compare this rookie to. And it says Josh Allen was reportedly "quote unquote" persistent in his talks with GM Brandon Beane heading to the NFL draft that he wanted Kincaid. And we all know just how well it works for when the quarterback's making personnel decisions. It works out all the time. CEH has been otherworldly.
Oh, thank you. You nailed the one that I was going to bring up.
But Dalton Kincaid is going 111. I've seen him go.
I saw him go 103. Somebody said 103
I
on
saw
Twitter.
A draft where he went 102.
Stop.
Yes. So I've been just itching to talk about it. That's crazy, right? It's crazy. Why are we drafting Dalton Kincaid in the first?
That's wild. It's wild. I mean, look, if you want to draft him in this class at the back end of the first, I'm not going to crush you for it. It gets ugly after 108, right? I can't draft him. I can't draft him over any of the receivers. I can't do that. And honestly, you probably should draft Will Levis over him. Anyway, I'm warming back up to that idea just because he's a QB in Superflex. He has that upside, and tight ends, we know this. They just take time and generally don't work out the way we want them to or expect them to, especially the guys at the top. But how many teams have tried to use, guys like Mike Gesicki as Travis Kelce? You know what I mean? Okay, they want to use him like Travis Kelce. That doesn't mean he is Travis Kelce or can be Travis Kelce. Maybe he is. Okay, maybe this is the one finally. And if you have to spend a back end of the first, I guess the argument is the investment isn't that great. So why not take a shot on it because he's with Josh Allen? So look, whatever, man. But yeah, it's ridiculous. The 103, 106, all that kind of stuff. That just means to me, go out and start selling your shares. Just do it. What are we doing here? This is the kind of asset, the level that you want him to get to. He's almost there. He might never reach this value, right? He might never. They're telling you Travis Kelce, Josh Allen's I handpicked him. Pat Mahomes handpicked CEH. He did. He said, I want this guy. The Chiefs believed in him. I saw the take on Twitter by Dynasty Society. I'm sure a lot of people follow that guy. He said, I drafted him at 103. And somebody was like, is it that you like him so much or is it landing spot, whatever? And he's like, I like him. Pat Mahomes likes him. Chiefs like him. I'm like, Josh Allen likes him. Bills like him. And I'm like, this is literally the CEH argument again. So I guess, I didn't say that. I guess I didn't really want the smoke on Twitter today, but I'm saying it here. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. Again, you don't need to draft tight ends in the first round, but with this one, I'll tell you what, if you're on the clock late in the first round, you may as well select him and just sell him off the hype because it's going wild right now.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it though. You can't buy that.
I don't think you can. Like,
we did this with Kyle Pitts, and he is that level of prospect, and it didn't work out. Like, why are we doing this?
He had a good rookie season, but Dalton Kincaid is not Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts was a tight end 1 for a year and a half before he was even drafted, right? Like we knew he was boss status, right? Not Dalton Kincaid. Just saying.
No,
just saying. All right, this next one, best running back handcuffs. So if you're not in the Discord, fix that. Get in the Discord; it's fun. And they were talking about handcuffing running backs and like maybe who are the best running back handcuffs to have. Again, I'll say this, my personal opinion is do draft those RB2s, but don't go out of your way to do it to handcuff your own player, right? Like, unless they have standalone value. Like, I've had multiple teams where I've had like Ezekiel Elliott, and I also rostered Pollard for the last few years. It's because I could throw Pollard in there even before last year where he had like a really, really good season. Even before that, he was still like flex play. So other than that, try to just, my opinion, try to handcuff other people's running backs. With that said, let's look at the list.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I do think that I've kind of warmed up to the idea just like owning any direct backup is just a good thing in general because there's value there. Like, obviously, yes, it's higher upside if you own somebody else's because you automatically gain something you didn't have before. Whereas if you have your own, you obviously gain a worse version of what you had before. But I do think that there's still value in that either way. Anyway,
so here with the list, it's all good. So it's great. We have this from our lads, and whenever I'm looking at depth chart, I always go to our lads. Like I've found over the last 5-6 years, whatever. Like I think they do the best job of actually giving a really good depth chart. Regardless of like
they keep it up to date.
Like if you go to like the team page or ESPN, yeah. So I think that our lads does a pretty good job. Froze that for a second, my bad. But here with the AFC East, we have Buffalo Bills. So they have the starting running back listed as James Cook, and the next handcuff would be Damian Harris. And I think this is like a high priority running back to own as far as backup. James Cook is not going to get 100% of the workload. Damian Harris is still going to get his carries to begin with. Now, if anything happens to James Cook, then Damian Harris immediately becomes, RB1 type. So,
no, I totally agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. He's been massively undervalued, honestly, this whole offseason. Like every draft, he's one of the targets I have for the zero or hero running back kind of build because he's post around 10 at this point, and he's on a high-powered offense. And like you said, standalone value, they play different roles. And if James Cook goes down, we know that Damian Harris does have the ability to kind of be a workhorse type back. So I think he could definitely do more than people are expecting right now, for sure.
All right. In Miami, I would just say personally, probably just stay away. But you have Devin listed as Mossert as RB1, Jeff Wilson Jr. is RB2. And we both know those are all like, 2A, 2B type guys. And they drafted Devon A-Chain, who's the guy that you should probably definitely draft in your rookie drafts.
He's the one to own. He's the one to to roster, so. Right? Yeah, that's it.
Yep, I agree. I don't feel comfortable having Mossert or Jeff Wilson Jr. in my lineup. So those guys are very injury prone and old. So, all right, on to the Patriots. They have. Oh, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I would say the Patriots. They have Ramondre Stevenson listed as RB1. Can't agree or disagree with that at all. He's a stud. But behind him, there isn't anybody that I'm really actually interested in. They have Ty Montgomery as the RB2, James Robinson, undrafted free agent, a beast. But let's see what happened to him as RB3. I don't really want any of these guys except for Stevenson.
I want the one you didn't mention, which is Pierre Strong. Drafted him in the fourth round last year. Yeah. I think James Robinson, just with the injury and coming back, they paid him enough where they're probably going to try to use him, but I just don't. I think Pierre Strong is the guy to kind of roster in Dynasty there who has more of long-term upside.
Cool. The Jets, the up-and-coming Jets, the Jets with the easiest schedule as far as rest goes. They got Aaron Rodgers, and they're going to be a force in that division, probably make the playoffs. Big deal. Breece Hall, obviously RB1. Behind him, we have Zonovan Knight, Bam Knight. We saw what he was able to do last year. And then behind him, Michael Carter, and they drafted Izzy Abana kind of fast. I do have interest in Zonovan Knight. I think that's a decent handcuff to have.
I think so too, but I don't know. I was reading some stuff where they were kind of killing him for his performance towards the end of the season, and that team was just a dumpster fire at the end of the season. I don't know how you could really blame Zonovan Knight at after the last few games there, but I thought he played pretty well when he first got the shot in the first couple games. So I agree with you in that respect. I think Abanikanda, though, probably going to stick around, so he might be the guy there, but I don't think there's really any high upside or priority handcuffs here. But obviously, one of them will probably be the guy, and I'd honestly bet on Abanikanda at this point.
Yeah. Okay. AFC North, we got Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, J.K. Dobbins is the dude there. Gus Edwards, a holdover. They like him a lot. He's a guy that I've always touted as one of those. He's Pollard-like to me as far as points go. Gus Edwards was a guy you could put in your flex annually until he got hurt last year. He put up 700-yard seasons every year and just very quietly. Just one of those guys that'll get you 10 points in a given week. And behind him, you have Justice Hill. Mm-hmm. And they drafted Michael Keaton and Owen Wright. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I don't know anything about either of those guys.
Yeah, it's really Gus Edwards, and that's why J.K. Dobbins is so valuable this year. It's really his job, and there's nobody else to take any of the touches really. They might sign they honestly could use and sign like a Zeke or something, one of these guys who's out there. It's possible. It'd be a little overkill, but it's definitely possible, and they'd slot right in to the 1A 1B there. So that could definitely happen. But right now it's the J.K. Dobbins show, and there's not really much to be had behind him.
All right, Cincinnati, you have Joe Mixon. Obviously, he's the RB1. Behind him, they have the rookie Chase Brown, and then Trevion Williams. Do you look at Chase Brown as being a priority because we're not sure what's going on with Mixon?
Either way, I think he's a priority. Even if Mixon is still there, I think he, speaking of best handcuffs in the league, I love Chase Brown. Trevion Williams has been there and has been absolutely nothing since he's been there. I think Chase Brown slides right into the running back 2 role behind Mixon, and he won't be the running back 1. I imagine they would sign a veteran of some sort. Again, go after a Dalvin Cook, go after a Zeke or something like that. If they cut Joe Mixon or if something like that happened, so he would again be probably running back 2. I don't think he's running back 1 this year. I don't even know if that's a possibility in year 2, but I think he has the potential to be like Samaje Perine plus, and that was a pretty valuable asset in and of itself. He definitely could get a shot and be an outlier and be a stud for this team. He's on a great team. So that's why for me, he's a high priority, and I really liked him pre-draft and post-draft. I like him.
Cool. Moving on to the Browns. Obviously, Nick Chubb is the dude, and our lads has Jerome Ford as his backup, and then Demetric Felton, who's really just a wide receiver. John Kelly, what's true. UCLA,
it kind of is. It kind of is, yeah. And that's the way they've used him too.
And they drafted the guy Hassan Hall, but he's way down on the depth charts. Honestly, I'm not interested in anybody but Nick Chubb here.
Yeah, Nick Chubb, it's his role completely. But I do like Jerome Ford. I think he's going. Look, there's no Kareem Hunt there, and I'm not saying that he's like a great handcuff to own because if Nick Chubb went down, he'd have this lead role. I just think he's going to have like his own role on the team anyway. So I don't know how good he can be. I know that we liked him a little bit as a sleeper coming out. I mean, the community in general. And I remember I liked him a little bit, not overly in love with him. But again, he's the direct backup to Nick Chubb. There's not much else there. There's got to be some value in that. So, I think there's actually, just kind of thinking about this as we talk through it, the direct backup to a lot of these guys is probably a pretty valuable asset.
Yeah. Next one, Najee Harris, obviously Steelers RB1. Behind him is Jaylen Warren, which makes sense because we've seen what Jaylen Warren could do when Najee was not able to be on the field. And it was most of the time pretty impressive. Jaylen Warren is definitely a guy that I would want on my bench just in case.
Yeah, he was one who was mentioned in the Discord when they brought this up about who are the better backups in the league. And I think Jaylen Warren definitely qualifies as that. We've seen him do some things in the league already, be semi-successful. Even in between the tackles as a runner, he's been okay. And he has that pass catching upside. He has a standalone value. Najee, we've seen, gets banged up. So, yeah, it's great handcuff. I mean, definitely one of the more high priority ones for sure.
Cool. Moving on to AFC South, we have the Texans. Dameon Pierce, what a story. Had a really good year last year. Probably outperformed anybody's expectations, especially with that offense. Hopefully it gets better now with CJ Stroud and what they're able to do at the draft. Right behind them, they have Devin Singletary, the guy I've never cared for much. And then Mike Boone, Dare Ogunbowale, future or past Buccaneers captain. Are you interested in Singletary?
I think we should be more than we are. I think that's kind of where we're at in general as a market. I'm not super high on him, but again, we're not super high on Dameon Pierce, right? Like, we know that he's replaceable, and we know that running backs get banged up. He got banged up last year. I think he had an ankle injury. So Devin Singletary has been a productive running back in this league, both as a pass catcher. He's not the best runner by any means. He hasn't been the most efficient runner, but he's definitely a decent running back. And, if CJ Stroud is a thing and the offense starts cooking a little bit, yeah, he's worth rostering for sure. Like, he's a guy you should roster. I don't think anybody's ever been super high on Devin Singletary no matter what. So no. I don't think start now that he's gone to a worse team.
All right, Colts, Jonathan Taylor. Hopefully he bounces back from a lackluster season last year. It is fine. The season he had before was so good. It's, what have you done for me lately type of deal with Jonathan Taylor right now. But they have Zach Moss as the backup, and then behind him, Deion Jackson, which we saw some Deion Jackson last year. Then they have the rookie Evan Hull. Honestly, even though the depth chart has him as the fourth running back on the list, I think that Evan Hull is probably a guy I would want. If Jonathan Taylor does miss some time, I think he could possibly be a better running back than Zach Moss and Deion Jackson.
Absolutely. And Deion Jackson's not a bad player by any means. I like Deion Jackson. Shout out Deion Jackson. He liked to tweet about him where I think I kind of roasted him a little bit. So he could take he could take a hit like a champ. I'm a huge Evan Hull fan. I think he's a great runner. He's a dual threat in college. He caught 55 passes this past year. I just think that he's going to insert himself almost immediately as the backup running back there, and he is zero threat to taking over a Jonathan Taylor role. But I think he is going to be a guy they can use like they were using, Nyheim Hines. Yeah. I think they were using him, but obviously he's not as fast straight away. But he's a very capable pass catcher, and he can run between the tackles. So I think they get a little bit more out of Evan Hull than they did out of their past backups for Jonathan Taylor. And if he were to get hurt, I think he's more of an all-around back. Not that he's going to get the role, but yeah, I love Evan Hull as a priority handcuff, and I've gotten him all over the place.
All right, moving on. Jacksonville, obviously Etienne's RB1. Behind him, they have the rookie Tank Bigsby, which is pretty interesting because they also have Jermichael Hasty, Dearness Johnson, Snoop Connor, which was a guy that we kind of liked last year, and then Quadri Olson, who's been had a couple weeks in his career which were playable.
Yeah,
I think Tank Bigsby is somebody I would want to have.
That's the endorsement right there. He's had a couple weeks in his career that were playable.
I'm honest.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're nothing if not honest. Yeah, it's Tank Bigsby, obviously. I mean, this is a guy. Jeez, excuse my screen. This is a guy who is really coveted, I think, by the Dynasty community, Devy community for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Fell in the draft, but a very talented back nonetheless. So going to a situation where their coach said they want to use more than one running back, yeah, behind Travis Etienne, he already got injured severely one time.
Yes.
It's a good bet to roster the backup there, no doubt.
The next one is also a fun one. Titans, Derrick Henry, obviously King Henry, stud. Older though.
Dog.
Hasn't played an entire season, at least the last 2 seasons. I know because I came in second in one of my dynasty leagues where all I needed him to do was just play week 17 and I would have won the whole thing. Instead, I have to take second place, which is fine. Covers the dues, but
as long as you have that,
team,
though. Yeah.
Right, and not winning. But yeah, behind him you have Tajay Spears, rookie. Definitely should be holding him. Hassan Haskins was a guy that I think we talked about last year as a guy you should probably have because anytime you could have the backup to somebody like Henry in an offense that wants to run as much as they do, there's a lot there. And then you have Julius Chestnut, and they also drafted a guy named Chuck McLeland.
A guy named Chuck. Oh, geez. Yeah, Tajay Spears apparently has no ACL, so there is that. Got to know that going into this. Apparently that's come out that he doesn't have ligaments in his knee, which I don't know. That might be a good thing. Like rookie, that came out.
Is that why he's so elusive? He could just bend his knee all crazy?
That's what I'm saying. They're saying he won't last long because of this, but I have a feeling that might be why he can do what he does. So Tajay Spears, I do like him a little bit more short term knowing that information, but who knows? I do want to go back real quick. I just want to highlight how I think Tank Bigsby is probably one of the better handcuffs in the league, low key. Just in general, okay. I know he's a rookie, but just with Travis Etienne's history and there not being any other quality players in that room necessarily, they want to use multiple. I think he's going to get a lot of run, probably a standalone value player at the end of the day, and one that we didn't mention in the Discord, but definitely wanted to highlight again here while we were talking about it. Sorry.
Cool. And then the last of the AFC, we'll start with Denver. You have Javonte Williams as the RB1. Behind him, Samaje Perine, which I think we'll both have kind of similar views on there. They drafted a guy named Jaleel McLaughlin. They have Tony Jones Jr. there, but nothing really. It's Javonte and Samaje Perine. And again, we talked about Javonte, not sure exactly he's actually going to start week 1 or even be effective first half of the season. So Perine season.
Yeah, I like Perine for the first half of the season. He's, again, a guy who we know already has standalone value in an offense as a second, the running back 2 on a team, right? As a second running back on a team. So I think he can kind of, again, like we're talking about Javonte not being healthy, maybe he can obviously play the quote unquote lead role for the first few weeks, and then he'll probably still get touches here and there and kind of, he can fill that 8 to 10 points in your flex spot. So I like Samaje Perine for this year, maybe next year, but it's probably not a long-term play.
Cool. Kansas City Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco. If you're lucky enough, you probably got him off of waivers last year or really late in your rookie drafts. And he kind of came in there and just took the job. Obviously, they re-signed Jerick McKinnon. They have him listed as RB2. Jerick McKinnon, crazy year last year. Nobody ever saw it coming, but he actually stayed healthy throughout the season and just became a touchdown stud, PPR stud. And there's this guy behind him, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Whoever that is.
Yeah.
Are you interested in McKinnon as a handcuff?
No, he's too old at this point, and I just don't know if he really has that much juice left. If anything, he's going to be a guy who they kind of just, I think, watch his touches all year because they want him ready for the playoffs. If anything at all, I don't think he's going to get a ton of touches early on and just kind of be this workhorse or getting a ton. Well, he never will be that, but or getting a lot of receptions either, which is what you want from him. So I think if anything, other than Pacheco, you're going to just you're going to want Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, there, you know, and he's being drafted so late. Like, I think he went post round 10 as well. And yeah, like, he's been absolutely terrible, but if that's going to be the room for the year, he's probably somebody you should roster. You know, worst case, like, Pacheco gets injured, and then he's probably going to be utilized a lot.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to Las Vegas. We have the Raiders. Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs with an amazing season last year. Kudos for us for identifying that early on with some advanced metrics. Still pretty proud of that.
Absolutely.
Behind him is Amir Abdullah. Dude, I love him because he went to Nebraska, but he hasn't done anything in the league. Brandon Bolden, Zamir White, which is the guy that everyone's like, hey, Zamir White's going to take Josh Jacobs' job. He did not. And yeah, are you interested in any of these guys? What I don't see is anybody that's similar to Josh Jacobs. Like, honestly, I think if Josh Jacobs gets hurt, then maybe Brandon Bolden stops, hops in as RB1.
Yeah, maybe, unless Zamir White actually develops, from year 1 to 2. I think he's probably the high upside play there. Like, we know what Brandon Bolden is, and he's not really someone you want to put in your fantasy lineup no matter what, to be honest. So for me, Zamir White, I actually just drafted him in this startup at like round 25. Mm-hmm. So it's like, we're really at that point, you're drafting like, it's bad. So I think that he's actually a pretty good pick, really not going to cost you anything. And, like you said, there's nobody super similar to him. So he could also carve out his own role if he does develop, and then possibly, the injury bug, or Jacobs moves on after this year because he's, again, a free agent next year. Who knows, right? He didn't get a contract. I'm pretty sure he got
the guy I do like in that.
He's on a 1-year deal,
or
right?
something like that, right?
Franchise tag. Yeah. Okay. I'm just making. Or they picked up his 5th-year option or whatever the hell it is, or I forgot what it is. I think he's on the franchise tag. You're right. Something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Another guy I do like in that backfield is Sincere McCormick. He's a rookie from last year. I thought he was a good running back. So I don't know. Yeah.
I remember.
All right. Finishing up the AFC West and all the AFC, we have the Chargers. Obviously, it's Austin Eckler. And behind him, they have Josh Kelly, Isaiah Spiller, a guy that we thought would get drafted a whole lot higher than he did last year. Larry Roundtree, they drafted Elijah Dotson and Tyler Huseman.
I like Joshua Kelly there.
You like Josh Kelly?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I think he's I think he is the backup to Eckler, and he proved last year like he actually did improve, and he had quality touches on his own. I think they want to kind of reduce Eckler's touches as he gets older. So, and then there's the injury stuff, Yeah.
I just remember Joshua Kelly, his rookie year, when, he ended up with 15, 20 touches some game. And it was just like the most unproductive, least efficient, running of the ball I've ever seen in my entire life. So I'm a little sour on him, but yeah.
Yeah. He was better last year. He was.
Cool. He was. I don't know if we planned on going through it team by team like we just did.
I didn't, but I was letting you go on the roll, bro.
Yeah, so why don't we go ahead and save the NFC for next week?
I love it. Look at that. You're a true content creator. Just making content last 2 different episodes. Like that is quality stuff right there. You're a true professional.
No, just having a good time. I think that to do it justice, we'll do the NFC next week.
Yeah, we can take our nice sweet time on it. We'll have Josh to jump in and give his thoughts as well.
Let's do that.
Cool. All right.
But yeah, those are the handcuffs. Backup running backs for all the teams in the AFC.
I love it. That's actually really good information to go through. You don't realize how many quality handcuffs there are. They're not all handcuffs, obviously, because I think especially in fantasy, I'm sure somebody be listening and stop calling them all handcuffs, because obviously the ones who are true handcuffs probably have some standalone value, like we were talking about. But I do think it is really important for all of those direct backups to be rostered, because they do have some value for sure. And I think we're seeing a changing of the guard. Like I've been talking about a transition period in the NFL with the running backs. Kareem Hunt out, Jerome Ford in, all these different guys. Somebody is going to become a high quality backup, that we aren't quite expecting. And that's why everybody tells you to roster as many of these as you can rather than going after all of the high end running backs, because inevitably they get injured. And in a couple of these guys do pop up as, again, high quality, just standalone backups, or they get the injury boost as well. So it's really good to know all these guys, and going through it like we just did, I even realized, I'm like, oh yeah, there's more here and there. So
yeah, when you're filling out your bench spots in your roster in a startup, or just, if you're just moving pieces in your established league, don't be going after those wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3s. Go after these guys. Way more upside with it.
Definitely.
I've learned along the way.
Definitely. A lot of people will tell you don't go, and I agree with this. Uriah just said, don't go after the wide receiver 2s and 3s. Go after those guys. Definitely. But I hear a lot of people talking about don't go after wide receivers, and that's the full stop. Don't go after wide receivers. You should be rostering running backs, and I will roster 2 wide receivers until August, and I'll pick up roster really good wide receivers. That's it.
Really good. Yes.
That's the answer. Roster as many top 24 wide receivers as you possibly can.
And then fill out the rest of your squad with these guys.
Yes. Correct. Yes. Yeah. And obviously a top tight end, top 3 tight end, and a couple top end quarterbacks, and you got a winning dynasty team.
You're winning. Yeah, that's how you win dynasty.
It's simple, super easy, folks, when you say it like that.
Just draft good players.
Easy peasy. Okay.
All right, cool. So we have a fun segment here, courtesy of Billy. And I think this is important for either new dynasty players, established dynasty players, people who forget these little tips, but we're going to call it Dynasty Offseason Don'ts.
Yes.
Let's talk about it. The very first one that you mentioned is the one I was going to bring up, so it's perfect. It says, don't drop players or clear taxi squad prematurely. If your league allows expanded rosters until the start of the season, there's absolutely no reason to be dropping these players that you just don't know what's going to happen, especially if it's one of these running backs, right? And then one of them gets hurt in training camp, or maybe it's a guy you drafted in the 4th round of your, rookie draft, and you're trying to make room for your taxi squad. Just don't worry about roster construction right now. I've sold off players for way cheaper than I should because I was worried about having a valid roster. Players like David Njoku, I sold off for 3rd and the 4th last year before the rookie draft, which is absolutely insane. I remember selling Darren Waller. I've brought this up many times on the show, for a 3rd round pick because he hadn't done anything in the NFL yet. And I was like, man, I just need to get rid of one piece, but maybe I can get a pick back. So I got a 3rd round pick for it. And I was like, oh, that makes sense to me. At least I didn't just drop him. But looking back on it, those are terrible mistakes. Because there was no reason. It wasn't like I was up against the deadline. You have to have a valid roster right now. So some leagues are different than others, where you might have to have a valid roster a couple weeks after your rookie draft or whatnot. But if they expand them for the whole summer, don't worry about it.
No, dude, Dynasty is all about learning from your mistakes, for sure. And we all make those. I've dropped guys for sure in Console Wars. We have to have our lineups cut by August, and I'm gotta do it now, cut it now, get it right. And it's no, you don't. And players gain value, like you said, random injuries happen, guys get boosted up, you have opportunities to trade them instead. There's just so many different things you can do. So yeah, it's just a really big one. Don't feel rushed to make any roster moves whatsoever. If your lineups are expanded throughout the offseason, if you have no choice, obviously, then you have no choice. That's a different story. But don't clear out your taxi squad. If you just drafted players and you're oh, I want to put these guys on the taxi squad, you don't have to do that until week 1. You don't have to do that right before week 1. Just hold them and then do your taxi squad management towards the beginning of the season when you have to. You can have invalid rosters right now. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next one, don't overspend on running backs early in the offseason. So this is kind of what we were talking about here with, if you do want to go get running backs, go get all the handcuffs right now. Go get all the backups, right? Because these guys inevitably are super cheap, and some of them will gain value over time. The running backs like the Dalvin Cooks and the guys you think are cheap, they aren't that cheap. People are still going to try to hose you. People are still going to try to get the most they can out of these high quality assets. Like for me, I think we've already missed the train on that. Like we know that he's probably going to sign somewhere. You know what I mean? Like these guys, I think maybe Zeke is your guy in that respect, but either way, I think that there's very few running backs that are going to be cheap. You see guys trying to move Jonathan Taylors and all this stuff. Like I get these requests pretty often, and they're like, just like, Saquon Barkley, people trying to move on from them. I don't think we should be buying running backs early in the offseason. Too many injuries can happen. Too many things can happen to these guys in training camp. They're probably going to be similar cost, if not cheaper. Hold your cards now especially when it comes to running backs.
I agree.
Cool.
This is a good one. I think we both agree about this. We preach it in the Discord, and it says, don't save your fab because you think you'll find a league winner later. It's not redraft where you have smaller rosters where you literally could find a league winner during the waivers, week 3. That doesn't happen in Dynasty. Not often, at least. It just doesn't really happen. Isaiah Pacheco was one last year. James Robinson about 3 years ago.
But not late in season. Neither one of those were late in season.
No. I mean, you get by week 6, like, honestly, save yourself. By week 6, you won't have to worry about waivers. Just blow your fab early on. Maybe grab a couple rookies you weren't able to get because maybe you only had 2-3 picks in the rookie draft, but there's still a couple guys. Go get those guys. There's nobody saving you after week 6. Like there's nobody out there going to come rush and just like and elevate your dynasty team to some championship. It just doesn't happen.
Oh my goodness, dude. I love the thought process you have on this. It's such a funny thought process in that like, you're like, I want to spend it so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, really, how many leagues do we have? Like, I don't be worrying about waivers. Like honestly, halfway through the season, I don't even go for waivers. Like I don't care. There's nothing there.
So I'm like a waiver hound. I'm always checking because I just like, it's like a fun thing for me. I don't know. It's just not like a chore for me like it is for a lot of people who hate it. And like, that's why they're like best ball and no waivers. And like, I you know what I mean? They just don't care about that. But like, I just think that when I spend most of my fab early in the season to get players that I want, I still always have enough left over to make the transactions I generally need to make throughout the season if I want to, right? Like It's not often that I go straight 100% on a player no matter what. You know what I mean? I'm usually saving myself like 20% of my fab to like play with the rest of the season. Excuse me. So that's a big part of it is like, I think people forget that like a lot of the transactions you want to make, you don't need that much fab to make them. And, you're not going to be bidding with everybody on a lot of the transactions, especially late in season. You're almost never going to find a league winner late in season. Almost never. Like it rarely happens where you get like some scrub who is like the third string and like somehow they get, this ridiculous game. I'm trying to think of who a player like that was, like for the Vikings, or Craig Reynolds, or for the for the Lions, or some dumb thing. But with the fab, like I do want to bring it to one other place and ask this question. But I totally agree with Uriah. It's all about getting the rookies early on because those are the only quality players that drop to the waivers. Usually is after the draft. Some of these guys, Charlie Jones, Evan Hulls, spend all your fab on those guys and just don't even think twice about it. What I do want to bring it to is how much is a rookie player that hits the waiver wire worth in fab? How much is a 4th round rookie pick worth in fab? If you have, say, $1,000 budget, which is what a lot of my leagues are. I know a lot are 100 and you can adjust to that, but 1,000, how much do you think?
25%.
Okay.
If you could go away with 2 rookies with potential and you spend half your fab, I have absolutely no problem with that.
Okay. I'm definitely willing to spend 50% of my fab on on like an Evan Hall or a Charlie Jones, because I don't really think that there's going to be another player of that quality out there, or that I'm going to have to get into a bidding war of $500 with anybody else. So I'll still be able to kind of manage myself if I did it that way. I was in a Devi league where things are a little different, and these things, it changes, where like the waivers are literally so barren that it's just you're not picking up anybody. It's just pointless to even look at it. The draft happened and a lot of Devi players went. So, Schoonmaker and Tank Dell hit the waiver. Yep. For me, those guys are 3rd round picks. I think you go up to 50 to 75% of your fab, because you're not getting anybody else. There's no point in having any money. It doesn't even matter at that point. Yeah. So that's how I think about it.
Yeah. If you're going to put in waivers for those 2 guys, if you did 90% of your total budget and got them both, there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
Yep.
And totally I think that's something that you should do.
I agree. So don't hold your fab in the offseason. It's really, there's no point in waiting on it. And I think you're going to beat a lot of people out by not holding it, because most people do. That's my opinion. Okay. Don't be inactive or complacent. This is a big one for me. We talk about effort and commitment a lot. So even if the team is really good, continue to try and gain value and build by sending trades and making waiver claims, right? So just don't stop and don't get complacent. Like your team can be as good as, as good as you think it is. It can get better is the point, really. And there's always opportunities in dynasty leagues. There's always market inefficiencies. You'll have a player who gets hyped up more. There'll be players in the league who are too low, and go and get those guys, right? That's just 100% the way you should be doing it. And when you have a better team, you have more leverage. You likely have better players that you can trade for other good players, plus just in worse situations. So, you just can't really sit on your laurels in dynasty, especially when you have a good team.
Yeah. Any of my teams where I look, I'm like, how did it get to this point? The answer almost 100% of the time is, well, you weren't doing anything with your team. You weren't doing anything to make it any better. You just thought it was good last season, so maybe it'll be good this season. And then 3 seasons go by and you haven't done any upgrades besides a couple rookie drafts, and you're wondering why you have all these old players that nobody wants anymore, and your team's no longer good. It's because you didn't do anything with it. You didn't nurture it. So at least that's me. Yeah.
No, I'm probably most people, dude. I think that's the only way these teams can go south like that. Either you're just, really out of your depth and kind of need to find better ways to navigate through the landscape, or you're not really giving the effort and the attention that your team deserves. Which, we sound ridiculous talking about this, but it's important to us. And that's, dynasty. That's why you get into it, because it's important to you. Okay. This is my favorite one, because we talked about this, some news and hype with the news and nonsense.
Yep.
Don't get caught up in the hype on Twitter, coach speak. Just be reasoned about everything. And I literally had, before I even looked at your thing up here, Kincaid related, that's exactly what kind of tipped me off on this. Is we're doing the same thing we always do, the same thing we did with CEH. Nobody's learning their lesson here. And it's some of it's about just managing your expectations in general on the whole situation. Obviously it's possible that he turns out to be the next Travis Kelce. That's obviously possible. He is in a situation that is incredible with a great quarterback. He wants to use him. Everything is there. So it's definitely possible, but you got to manage your expectations, because we know how rare it is and what, is more common, that it's not going to be that way. So just don't kind of lose yourself in the hype. Stay grounded, make smart moves, and it's easy to say that, obviously. Me saying that's easy to say that, but I really do practice that. I try my hardest. Uriah probably knows I'm very risk averse. I take my time. I'm patient. I think things out very, for a very long time. I research things, even stuff I know. I know a lot of the stuff off the top of my head. I go back, look at the player's profile, you just be reasoned about everything, and kind of don't fall into whatever the Twitter verse is doing to you, because they will take hold and you will be lost for a long time.
Yeah. There's so many good things on Twitter that make us better dynasty players, but there's also so many things that you could get wrapped up into where you end up making a bad decision because you have the wrong types of people speaking the loudest about a certain topic. And that goes for the world, really, but
everything.
yeah, it's
It does.
Or
It
like
does.
3/4 is it the loud minority. So, yeah, that's great news. It's very easy. And you see these. It'll be like, oh, it's Dalton Kincaid Day. Sweet. Okay, we're just gonna hype him up all day, and we're gonna argue about it, and but just stick with the good research and historical data, which I think is important. Which is where we draw the line with a guy like Kincaid and Kyle Pitts and stuff like that. We've seen the OJ Howards and the David Njokus and these other first round tight ends. None of them are going to be Travis Kelce. It's just not going to happen. But yeah, you gotta lower your expectations, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean historical data for me is like almost like a baseline for me. It's like, here's where my starting point is in potential outcomes, range of outcomes, right? And then I can start adding in some of the film and the situation and the player and the guy and all the other things that because they do factor into it, like whether we want to admit it or not. Like, intangibles do factor into this stuff. That's why we can't predict always what's going to happen. That's why historical data is only 60%. It's like there's only so much we can do with this. So it's just do your best. Obviously, with the hype stuff, I always try to look at it as an opportunity. Like, how can I use this information? How can I use this ridiculous jump in value for any player, whether I believe in the player or not? Can I sell him and get whatever it is? So it's just about using the information in the best way possible, and staying grounded is really the biggest thing that I think I can impart on any dynasty player, because a huge thing in dynasty is we like players, right? We want to have fun. We want to have our takes and we want them to be right, and we want to kind of roster those players and do all that. But for me, it's like, those are the things I try to stay away from and be really grounded about all of the decisions I'm making. Like, no matter what I believe, it's like, all right, it's time to move on from this guy. I love him, but I can't do it anymore. Like, so yeah.
I don't mind doing that when it comes to a player that you feel, but that's like your third round guys, or like late second round guys, or your fourth round guys. Like, those ones,
Charlie
have
Jones.
fun with those. Have 100% roster shit. Have 100% roster shit.
I know.
It's fine because it doesn't cost you anything.
I do. You don't have to tell me.
No,
you
Kincaid,
stole it from me.
Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
Draft him, but don't draft him 103. You have the 110.
No matter
111,
what
112,
you believe,
go for it. But you know what I mean?
Trade back and get him.
And the thing is, you don't have to. You could trade back and get him, and we'll talk about it right now. So let's hop into some trades and non-trades. This is one I made. I'm very proud of it because I got done exactly what I got done. I actually sat down and hammered out. I was sitting there in console wars with the 104. I had the 103, traded back, picked up a player and a pick. I'm sitting at 104 and I'm looking. I don't want any players at 104. I don't really need a quarterback. I don't really want CJ Stroud. I don't want Bryce Young. Like, I don't need that for my team. What I need is I needed a running back and I need a wide receiver. I really want to leave one of my rookie drafts with either Quentin Johnson, JSN, Jordan Addison. I don't have any of those yet, and I'm 5 leagues in right now. But so I'm like, I have this opportunity. I have the 104. Somebody needs a quarterback. So I'm looking at the guys who are picking 106, 107. It's a 3-copy league. So I have 6 individuals I could go and send offers to trade back just a couple spots. And it's going to give me at the 106 or 107. And I'm going to get one of those wide receivers I want. Easy. But what's the value? I use DTC to see kind of like what the value difference is there. And I'm like, hey, that's going to land me a Miles Sanders, Isaiah Pacheco, David Montgomery. And I'm looking at the guys that I could trade with. And those guys are all available. So I was able to send out 5 different offers. Matt was the quickest. I was really hoping to land Steele with Pacheco instead. But this is what I did. I sent a 104 and then 303. And I got back David Montgomery, and I moved back to 106. 2 spots and a third, and I picked up David Montgomery. So now I have a running back I could start, and I still get to draft my wide receiver. Instead of just sticking around and grabbing
AR-15?
Yeah, maybe if he was there. I doubt it. Gibbs basically would have been it, and I don't really need Gibbs. Like
at 104, you're 104 in a 3-copy league, right?
Yeah,
is what you were.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's very possible. So, but what you did was you moved out of the QB range, right? Essentially,
exactly. Yes,
right. So, I mean, like you're obviously set at QB. You don't need QBs, right?
I got guys. Yeah.
You got guys. Hey, you got guys.
Well, I mean, I have, I have Mac Jones. He's going to play all season. I have Dak Prescott, who's fine. And then I got, on the bye week, whatever, I got Baker Mayfield, who will do whatever. I don't need CJ Stroud.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's tough.
If AR-15 was still there, I might be like, dang, there's that high upside player that I could have got.
Right.
But I'm trying to kind of dig myself out of a hole here, grab a running back that I needed, and grab a stud wide receiver.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't hate it. And I see what you're doing. I like David Montgomery. Getting the receiver there for sure. I think you probably going to want to go Quentin Johnson because you want the high upside and trying to get like a number one guy. Also, I think that he's the guy who can be the number one guy, with kind of like, I love Zay Flowers. But I think that his potential, upside obviously is capped by the offense, no matter what, even if he is great and he gets all the targets. Like I think Quentin Johnson has the higher potential. So
I have a Zay Flowers share, so I'm cool with that.
No, I'm just kind of talking it out, but I kind of like the idea of moving up there though. I do. Matt's a really good friend of mine and we were talking about this and I told him, I was like, I want to move up personally.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I don't think he paid a ton to move up.
Nope.
So he got himself into a QB range. I think that there may be a little bit more value there while he's on the clock, depending on what's there. We don't know in this league. It goes haywire sometimes. So, there's risk in doing what you did. It not, kind of not knowing who was there for you. If you needed a running back, I almost would rather go Gibbs, to be honest. And I know you.
But then I don't get the wide receiver.
That's true. So,
this way, I get the running back.
So you get bargain brand Gibbs.
I got 2 players for my 104.
Yeah, and you got bargain brand Gibbs because he's on the same team. So
hey, he's hurt.
Okay. Yeah. I like it. No. I think this was a really fair trade because personally, I see both sides of it. Typically I like to move up. So I think that's what I generally would do, but given your context and what you need and you getting the double players, you're going and getting the guy you want in one of these wide receivers. So yeah, I can't really knock you for it. I dig this trade. It's a good one. Cool. So this next one is mine. I know that we don't all play Devi and some of the names may be a little foreign to y'all, but trust me, the more you hear them, the better it is for you because you will know their names in just a couple of years and you want to know them early on. Go play a Devi League. They're very fun. So I have a really stacked team and I had this offer come across my desk, I'll say. With Devi leagues, the Devis can hold a lot of value and it's tempting to hold on to them because it's very exciting to, just like we do a Dynasty, you hold on to a player and they become something and it's amazing. Yay. And I had Caleb Williams, right? The quarterback who's supposed to be like the next best thing coming out next year. And also Uriah Branch, who is a receiver who will be playing with USC as well this year. And he's a 5-star recruit, absolute stud. I love this kid. I think he's going to be great. Right. Jerion Dickey, another 5-star recruit, same class, going to Oregon. Very, very good players. Like these are very high-end players. I also have Pat Freiermuth, right, in the NFL. So these are just trying to explain some of the assets. These are very good Devi, very quality Devi assets. The Pat Mahomes owner, I guess he's blowing up his team, and he sent over this offer, which was Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce for Pat Freiermuth, Caleb Williams, Uriah Branch, and Jerion Dickey. And I thought about it for about 5 minutes. I sent out a couple, hey, like, how do y'all feel about this? And then I just went back and I accepted it because I was like, wait, I'm getting Patrick Mahomes. Like, what am I even thinking about here? Caleb Williams might be the next Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes is the Mahomes.
Yeah.
And he's going to be that for a long time. And I get Travis Kelce along with it. Like, it just seemed like an absolute no-brainer. So I remember listening to Shane Swagger, and I think maybe it was even in the league chat when we were in a league together at one point, talking about how it was a Devy league we were in and how he uses Devies. Maybe it was on here where he talked about it, how he uses Devies as really just pieces to get more NFL players. And he never really keeps his Devies until they make it onto his team. And I'm not totally on that train because I do like having fun still. I do like owning, a Zachariah Branch and him hitting and being amazing. But this is just such a good example to me of a way to, yes, these guys are going to gain value. They're probably going to be some really good players here. But you're getting Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Like, they can't be better than that. So just take the, take your boat. Don't worry about what's in the box and just call it a day. So for me, this was an easy win. I think a lot of Devy guys probably think the same thing. They're just going to say Patrick Mahomes and go for it. But there are going to be Devy guys who are just after the Devies. So this is how you can take advantage of that and exploit it.
Cool. I like it for you.
If you saw this team, dude,
it puts you in position just ridiculous.
His team has Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill and Tua, and it's just like it's
the rich
God
get richer.
level. Yeah, it's just I couldn't believe it came across because I was like, I'm gonna win this league for a while. It was just ridiculous. It's one of those things. I mean, I'm gonna be in contention in the top 3 for a long time. It's gonna be a pretty fun league for me. So very, very fun stuff. All right, this next one came across in our Console Wars Dynasty League. We've talked about it a lot on here. This is a 3-copy, 36-team league, but it's split into three 12-team divisions. So the best way to think about it, in my opinion, is just a 12-team Dynasty Superflex. Start 10. That's what it is. So this just happened today. It was Tua for the 205 and a 24 first. How do you feel about that?
I think it's pretty fair. I know that he's been trying to get rid of Tua for a while because I got a couple different offers for him. Didn't really fit my team. What I did with my 104, I like a whole lot better than sending off a 24 first for Tua. But I think for the price of a starting quarterback, one who likes to sling it, I'm not concerned about the concussions myself personally. I think that's going great for a starting quarterback. And honestly, I think it's pretty cheap for a quarterback.
Say it. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
If Tua is healthy, this is a steal. 100%.
Steal.
It's a steal.
Yeah.
A single first for Tua's proven to be elite. End of story. When he's healthy, so you're getting elite production if he's healthy, and that's just not an expensive price for it.
Yeah,
24 first a year out. Yeah, I love it. Love it for the person who got Tua there. This also was same league, Console Wars. The 306 for Daniel Bellinger.
Sure.
Whichever side, right? Just sure.
Yeah, it's fine. I think again that's probably going great. Daniel Bellinger has Darren Waller to contend with for at least a year, but we saw what Bellinger could do last year, and he's a good tight end and on a better offense than it's been in a long time. That's kind of they're strapped for people who could catch the ball. So I still really like Daniel Bellinger as a player, and it's somebody who I still would want on my team. 306, I'm not all that interested in. Like, if I have one, it's fun picking a player, but when it comes to scoring points, whoever's going at 306 is probably not going to do it for me. So, yeah, give me Daniel Bellinger.
I'm right there with you. I honestly was thinking in my head there for a second, so I missed the part if you did say that Waller's not going to be there that long. That's right. So, I mean, that is a point I do want to make, that Waller is not long for the league. So, yeah, he's going to obviously be the number one receiving option at tight end there. But we already saw last year they used Bellinger as a rusher. They used him in the receiving game. And now he's going back to, okay, let me develop a little bit, block a little bit more. I think this could be just fine for him. And again, on track with the rest of the tight ends. Year 3, he might be the guy there. So Go out and get him right now for a third, fourth round pick. If you like him, set him on the bench. He's not your starting option, and see what happens. I know the person who made this trade for Bellinger, Jake, our friend of the show, is a Giants fan. It's a win. It's a win for him. I think he gets his player on his team, and he's a guy who's going to probably develop into a decent NFL player hopefully he can be a decent fantasy option. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Cool. All right, this last one is a trade that has not been made. This is one that I sent out, and I sent out, I think, a couple offers. One got rejected. I'm just going to ask about that one. The other one I have out there. So it's Mike Evans and Izzy Abana kind of fast for
Trademark.
Keenan Allen. Yes, trademark for Keenan Allen.
Yeah, Mike Evans and Izzy.
Okay, that got rejected, and the person who rejected it was on the fence about it. They're like, I don't know. So yeah, that sucks. Okay, interesting. I think Keenan Allen is probably the better asset for a contending team. My team is contending, and I think Keenan is a lock for top 15 to 24 wide receiver scoring. So pretty consistent there. Mike Evans just not in a situation I love with Baker or Kyle Trask or whatever's there. So that's what I was going for there. Didn't get done, and I have it sitting out there for DJ Moore.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully you get that done.
So you think DJ Moore, obviously, right? Like that's...
Yeah, I would want DJ Moore.
What about for Deontay Johnson?
You probably get that done.
All right, that's what I'm going to go do then. I'll do that one.
Yep.
I gotta get rid of Mike Evans, dude. This is one of those assets.
I mean, honestly,
gotta get out of.
And I personally would try to get out of Izzy too. So while he still has, I mean, I get it. You probably have more faith that he's going to be something than I do, which is fine. That's how trades get done. But yeah, I'd be trying to get out of Izzy before it fizzles.
Yeah. Oh, I don't have a bunch of faith in Izzy. Yeah. I just think that I think they might not like Zonovan Knight as much as we do. And they drafted him, and he's just kind of, I don't know. He just seems like a guy that they think is more of, I don't think this about him, but everybody seems to think he's more of like a workhorse style kind of back between the tackles guy. He's faster. Breece Hall kind of slow to come back at the beginning of the season. He's going to get some play. So that's why I think he has some value. I'm trying to use his value to get rid of him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's definitely somebody that I'd be trying to package with a guy like Mike Evans this offseason and try to get just a little bit younger wide receiver, someone like DJ Moore. That would be a really good smash trade if you get that done.
All right. I like Deontay Johnson there too. Don't sleep on Deontay.
Cool.
All right.
You got anything else?
No, got plenty there.
All right, man. Thanks everyone for giving us a listen to this week's episode of Dynasty Underdog. Follow us on Twitter at Dynasty Underdog, at Uriah Dawkins, at Willie Beeman DFF, and Josh M. Goldberg 92. Hit our Discord. It's fun. We like talking to you. Pretty active in there, and a lot of smart players to kind of bounce ideas off there. So join it.
Very active. Some of the sharper players, honestly, in there that I've come across. So I do love the community we've built. Join us.
Other than that, have a good night.
Later.